Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talkdevils.co.uk, your number one independent Manchester United podcast. This is our Manchester United versus Watford preview. I'm your host, Keane. I'm joined by former Manchester United players, Phil Marsh and Lee Lawrence. Here today to talk all things Manchester United. We're going to talk about the recent game against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. We're going to talk about the Watford game tomorrow. And also, we'll be talking about a certain Swedish prince, Mr. Anthony Elanga, and the emergence of him in a Manchester United team. So, as always, guys, do smash like the video, hit that subscribe button, and look, we're going to get going straight away into the show. First of all, Phil, haven't seen you in a week. Obviously, look, Man United have played a lot of football in that time. It's been kind of a mad week if you're a Man United fan. As of late, first of all, how are you? And how was your week?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Back in work this week after a week off, so just obviously getting used to being back into my routine with work. Was a little bit unwell, obviously, in the week that was off, but feeling a bit better, so that's good. But yeah, everything else is great. Just looking forward to sort of my game as well tomorrow. Not had a lot of football due to the weather conditions and the storm last week, so yeah, just looking forward to a game of footy as well.
Absolutely, and look, when your fix of football is gone, I know during lockdown like 2 years ago I was going absolutely berserk. So when it's even gone for a couple of days now, never mind a couple of weeks or months, it's crazy because we've had so much football since Project Restart. Lee, haven't talked in a couple of days since my disaster of a broadband incident. How are you today?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Literally been in from work for probably 45 minutes, not over an hour, so I've not had much time to prep for this podcast. So it's going to be off the cuff, this one. So we'll see how it goes.
Off the cuff and do it pretty much like how Manchester United play football, so it's okay. We're going to do the exact same.
To be fair, mate, after the last game, I think we've all got plenty to say anyway, so I don't think we really need to be writing things down today.
Absolutely. I don't think we need to kind of write things down, no research, literally just as you said, Lee, it's going to be off the cuff. So first of all, lads, look, I suppose, Champions League was this week. Look, I suppose when you're in February, it's either Valentine's week or Champions League week. It's 1 to 2. Obviously, it was Champions League week for Man United this week. Phil, obviously, going away to Atletico Madrid, a lot of people would have been saying tough game for Man United. Manchester United wouldn't be expected to win. Diego Simeone's side is very hard to break down. You look at the most recent run of form of Atletico Madrid, many people say Man United man for man could probably beat them. That first 45 minutes was an absolute disaster. United were really off the pace. And what's your overall thoughts on just the overall result, getting the 1-1 draw, obviously coming away from Madrid with something to go back to Old Trafford, and just your thoughts on the performance as well? Because I think amongst Man United fans at the minute, a lot of people who kind of look at a half glass empty, half glass full kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if you obviously look at the results, I think we would have probably took that before the game. I think 1-1 is sort of a fair result in terms of, I think we probably didn't deserve that, but I think we would have accepted that, if you know what I mean, before the game. I think we would have been happy to take that away from there. As you said, I think the first half we was miles off it, started slow. Obviously they scored the goal, and a typical sort of Atletico Madrid performance, really. The way they sort of sit in and try and defend with loads of bodies behind the ball and try and hit people on the counter attack. But yeah, I just feel as though first half we sort of looked really nervous, couldn't really get any patterns of play going, didn't really create much. So obviously going into the second half, we was hoping for a positive reaction, which I think we got in sort of little spurts. I don't think it was still a great performance, but I think there was little bits of improvement in the second half, and I think some of the substitutions that he made a sort of big impact on the game. I think Matic coming on, we've just talked off stream about him. I think he came on and just made us a lot more solid in that middle of the park. And then obviously Elanga coming on, I think he sort of, epitomised what we were sort of lacking in the game, really. I think, his energy and the sort of run that he made for that goal when it was great little one-touch play. Just the desire that he showed, really, to sort of run in behind and penetrate and get on the end of something. And obviously, it was a great ball by Bruno. Maybe a little bit of luck with the touch, or the defender maybe could have, thought he could have done better. But obviously, when you go through, you need to sort of keep a cool head in them positions and them moments in a big, massive sort of game away. and he put it away. Albeit I don't think he quite caught it the way he wanted to. It was still, a really good finish, and he's been, a breath of fresh air for me since he's sort of come into the first team, and I think he's leading by example really with his attitude and the way he's sort of applying himself in the first team at the minute.
Yeah, like I think Anthony Langa, for many Manchester United fans, he says is a breath of fresh air, and I think he gives us something different in terms of an outlet, because I think I'm probably going to get slated for saying this, but when Dan James left, we probably had a player who had that direct approach in terms of running in behind and actually beating a man with pace. Obviously, Rashford can do that, but like Rashford has been so off form lately. It feels like he's forgotten kind of how to do the basics almost. It's almost he's after forgetting how good of a player he used to be. I don't know what's going on there, but like I think Elanga is only that player at the moment, bar Daniel James before we had him, who can kind of run in behind. They'll use his pace as an asset to kind of really be direct and go forward. And I think when he came on the other night, he obviously caused a lot of disruption for Atletico Madrid. Even before the goal, like he looked dangerous in terms of his runs. Now he wasn't getting picked out by Bruno or Matic or Fred at the time, but you could see he was making them runs and he's giving them something to think about. Obviously he scored his first touchdown as well, so that says it all really. And obviously look with Nemanja Matic as well, I think one thing I kept saying is watching the game, and obviously the one I seen in the midfield originally, I seen Fred, Pogba, Bruno. I was like, geez, that's a great attack of midfield. One thing you're losing there though without McTominay is physicality, and someone there to not win the second balls. Now in theory with Pogba's frame and time after time, sometimes he could win that second ball, but we weren't winning that second ball. Atletico Madrid were winning every second ball, and I think that's where, especially in that first half, we were really kind of second best. Well, obviously by the scoreline, but if you look at the phases of play, we really were second best. Like Lee, when you look at that game, obviously, the performance, we can look under the microscope, and there's obviously a lot of different components, how poorly kind of suppose that first half really was. Second half, we kind of responded. We start getting on the ball more. When you look at this certain players' positions, like you look at kind of the fullbacks, when Ralph Rangnick made that change, as Phil alluded to, when he brought on Wan-Bissaka and Alex Telles, United seemed to look like they had a bit more wit in that second half. Do you maybe think with the way Atletico played kind of with their wing backs, they kind of pinned us back, that him bringing on like Telles and Wan-Bissaka, especially like the two of them, that really kind of helped Man United tactically?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Listen, if you would have asked me before, man, then I think we mentioned it on a half a podcast we did in the week before we had the internet issue. We both said, a draw would definitely not be the worst thing that could have happened. I think we both would have took a draw away at Atletico, the champions of Spain. They're not on a rich vein of form at the moment, but like I said, on paper, I would have probably put us as underdogs going into that match. So as a result, I think it was a decent result. As a performance, I think it was one of the poorest I've ever seen. And to be honest, what's worrying me a little is we mentioned the run of games that we've got in, and the teams and the quality of teams we're due to play. And what's worrying me is this what we're going to see a hell of a lot of on the run to the end of the season, where the teams are, the likes of your Liverpools and your Chelseas and your Cities. Is this the kind of performance we're going to have to get used to watching? And hopefully, nicking a draw. The performance for me that first half was one of the worst I've seen all season. I mean, I looked at the midfield, and I think I mentioned it on the podcast about Corker when he was injured. I thought our midfield players were going to overrun the Atletico Madrid midfield players. They didn't. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, we've got Pogba in there, who's is hitting form. We've got Bruno, who again looks like he's scoring and creating chances again. And for me, we got bullied. That Kondogbia absolutely bullied everyone in that middle of that park. They give us no time on the ball. We had no composure. We had no football intelligence to play quick. We just played side passes, back passes. There was no balls what got put through. And every time we did try something, it got cut out. We give the ball away so many times. It was really poor. And I think Ralph knew himself he had to change something, because what was happening is just wasn't working. It was blatantly obvious to see. And what surprised me was they put Lindelof at right back. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Lindelof's been one of our best players now for a few seasons, and I would have him starting at centre back probably over any of the other centre backs we've got. I think Varane, I think I've said it a few times, and for me, Varane the other night, I know Maguire got some stick and he's been getting some stick, but for me, Varane was worse than Maguire. I think Varane was terrible. His positional play was terrible. He looked slow. I was worried when he got on the ball because I felt like he was going to give it away. And, you know, he was just as bad, if not worse, for me than Maguire. So what I'd have done, I'd have brought Lindelof, once took him off, took him off for Varane or Maguire, either or, and, you know, brought your Dalot or your Wan-Bissaka on. But they knew that something shape-wise, personnel-wise needed to change. Fair play, did it. He brought the full-backs on. I think Telles played well when he come on. He looked dangerous.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Got forward a lot better than what Shaw was doing. The crosses he whipped in looked dangerous. Wan-Bissaka, he gave us an out ball where we were, obviously Lindelof is not a right back. A right back this day and age has to play like an old school right winger. He's got to have that set of skills to get up the field, to take a player on, to whip a ball in. Lindelof is not that type of player, and it was never going to be that type of player. He weren't going to get round a man and whip a ball in. We all knew that from the start. I think that little experiment for me didn't work. I'm not saying Lindelof had a bad game, because I thought he was probably one of the better players that we had on the park. It just is not that player. It's like trying to get me to play up front. It would never have worked because I couldn't do it. So I don't understand where that comes from. But fair play to Ralph is that, you know, I think he was big enough to admit that it weren't working, and he made the changes, and the changes did work. Matic was, for me, shored everything up when he come on. I never thought I would have said that, because I have rated Matic in the past, but I never really, you know, called for him to be in a starting 11 or anything like that. But I think he made us a lot more solid. He gives us a bit more shape. He kept the ball a bit better than we was doing, and it was an important substitution. And obviously Elanga coming on again, like Phil said, breath of fresh air. I don't think he plays well. Don't get me wrong. I think he plays well when he comes on. I don't think he sets the world on fire, but I think his attitude and his running, that is what we're all taking to at the moment, because we've not got that. I can't. It was only when he come on did I see someone run behind the back four. It was all too into feet, going back, going sideways. No one was stretching them. I mean, Rashford didn't look like he was interested most of the time. So to me, I know it's I don't want to see the lads fail. We've said this in a few times, but for me, he's got to be dropped now, and you've got to give Elanga a chance. I can't see any other option going there. And like I say, the centre back pairing for me at the moment, that isn't working. Maguire and Varane. For me, I'd have to shape some up there too.
Yeah, I think, look, amongst many fans, I think if you look at United's best starting 11 at the moment, there is a lot of debate in terms of what United's best 11 is. And I think if you look at the centre-back pairing, that's always something that's up for debate. Like, a lot of Man United fans are saying Lindelof and Varane probably will be, in terms of balance, will probably be United's best centre-back pairing. A lot of people say Maguire, Varane. Some people say Lindelof, Maguire. People say Boye, Varane. Like, there's so many different centre-back partnerships that we could have, and there's a lot of debate always amongst the fan base as to what United's best centre-back pairing would be. Like, look, for me, if I look at it, probably will be Lindelof, Varane. That'd probably be my ideal partnership if you're looking at terms of how two centre-backs would complement each other's style. I don't think Maguire and Varane do that. And that's not a slight on Maguire. It's just like, I'm looking at kind of their styles of play, and I kind of look like, you know, how they complement each other at this moment in time. You know, they're not complementing each other, and I think that's why when Victor Lindelof comes in, he sticks out, because, you know, he's the more informed. He's like, his positioning for better, and the transitions are a lot better.
I think him bringing the ball out of defence, naturally, I feel more at ease when Victor Lindelof steps out at centre back with the ball than I do with Maguire, and then I do with Varane. For me, Varane, the distribution the other night was terrible. I was worried every time he got the ball, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like anyone wants to point that out. You play, you know, United support with. I think we're all praying that he's a better player than he is, but I haven't seen it at the moment in the United shirt where I would say he should be starting. I don't know. I don't know whether. I don't know. I think Victor Lindelof's got to be a starter for me. And at the moment, between Maguire and Varane, I think I'll be sticking by A. I know that sounds a bit, because I know he can be a bit hit and miss, but not one of them for me has proved that they're good enough to be starting centre-backs.
It's a weird one, because I think if you look at both centre-backs, obviously Maguire is someone who's struggling for form at the minute. And I think that's where, to a lot of people, are calling for him to be dropped. And then if you look at Varane has had his numerous issues with injury this season. So like there is kind of, I suppose, if you're looking at continuity in the back four, we don't have it at the minute. Obviously, Lindelof has had his injuries. He's had health scare. He's had COVID. Like Lindelof's been through the wars this season. But even despite all that, he's been absolutely fantastic. So I think if I look at the centre back situation at the minute, like there's so many inconsistencies, not just for form, but inconsistency as who's playing every week. What's the system? Because we've been flip-flopping through systems this year as well. So like I can understand where the concerns would be. And I think if you look at like the way we want to play the ball out from the back. Victor Lindelof is obviously the outstanding candidate for that. Like I didn't go as far as say Harry Maguire last season was brilliant, bringing the ball out from that left centre back position and then stepping out and then pumping it out to Rashford out on the left hand side of midfield. Like he was brilliant at that last season. This season, I don't know if it's I think it's a confidence thing. You don't lose that in your game. If that's a part of your game, you don't lose that. Do you know what I mean? You're understanding and reading of the game. That's one thing you don't lose. You don't lose your football brain. Now, you might lose something because of injuries, because the way your body can't do what it could do 10 years ago in terms of running back, and you might lose yard of pace or whatever it may be. But like Maguire's football brain certainly isn't gone. So I think it's probably a confidence issue. It must be. Because you don't lose your smarts. Not unless you took many knocks to the head or something like that. But like a boxer would or something. But like it's one of these things where like I do look at like Harry Maguire, and it's definitely a confidence thing. It's definitely not a quality thing, because he's shown it in the past that he can do it. So I think it's definitely a confidence thing. I think with like Raphael Varane, I think it's an issue with match sharpness to him. Like he hasn't got a proper run of games this side all season. He's almost like, remember when Danny Welbeck was struggling with injuries at Man United, and he'd play a couple of games, he'd get injured, and then he'd be out for a while, come back, play well, couple of games, injured, out again. Like I know they're obviously completely different players, but if you look at like in terms of injury record, Raphael Varane has a like horrendous injury record in the last kind of 2-3 seasons. Like he has really bad problems with his knees, and he always, like Real Madrid, especially in the last 18 months of his time, like he did have a lot of injuries. Now I don't know if Man United, like you'd like to think, right, that Man United in their scouting department, right, they're watching Varane. Obviously, Varane's a big name, Champions League winner or whatever. But when you're buying a player, certainly you have to get that spreadsheet you're looking at there. Like, okay, there's the injury record. This is how much football he's played in the last 2 years. Surely Man United should have been aware of this when they were buying him, that he does have an injury record. Now, he's a brilliant centre-back, don't get me wrong. And look, when you get a chance to sign a World Cup winner, Champions League winner for 34 million pounds, like you're going to jump at the chance. You're going to jump at the chance. But it's one of these things where maybe Manchester United probably could have went out this summer, maybe got someone like a Koundé or, an Upamecano. Well, obviously Upamecano was done before the summer. Koulibaly, someone like that, don't have the injury records. It probably would have cost probably a slight bit more, but you would have got someone younger. You would have got someone with obviously less kind of, I suppose, less injury record that what Raphael Varane would have. And then obviously you have someone there who would complement Harry Maguire. You have a quick centre back who can play the ball out from the back and who's physical as well. So I think maybe Man United, as much as I love Raphael Varane, I think if you're looking at long-term signing, is he going to be that with his injury record? And let's not forget, like he's coming into his 30s now. So he's 29, 30 now. This injury record isn't going to improve as he gets older. So I think, like, look, if Man United are going to manage him, I think United's medical staff need to manage him. I think whoever the manager is needs to manage the games he plays. And, like, if he isn't 100%, you don't play him. Do you know what I mean? It's simple as that, really, because there was times when Solskjaer was manager this season that he overplayed him. He played him when he wasn't fit. Remember, he was just back, played the Spurs game, and then got injured in the Champions League 3 days later when he was literally only back from like a 2-3 month injury. And then Ralph has obviously done the same. He's bringing them back early. Like, I think if you look at Varane, he's a quality player, but if he's not fit, even though he's a quality player and a great leader, don't play him. Because it only kind of messes up your team. It messes up the flow of your game. It messes up, obviously, if he's not match sharp and he takes the first touch, like, he's the centre back. Do you know, like, he's a centre back. He's not going to, you know, if he makes that bad touch, you have a quick striker. That's 1-0. Do you know what I mean? So I think we have to be very careful in how we manage this situation. And look, if it's a case where, look, he plays Lindelof and Maguire 1 week, I'm not going to go mad because if it's a situation where it's for the better of the team, because Rafael Varane, he's 60, 70% fit, so be it. I think one thing we've all been clamoring for in these last couple of months is we want players to play not on reputation, but play because they're in form. And I think that's one thing we really need to do at the minute. But speaking of players in form, Phil, we just touched on him briefly, is Anthony Elanga. Now, obviously, the reason why I wanted to come to you is you're young. You were a young striker, Manchester United. You came through the academy. You broke into the first team. And obviously, we talked about your time breaking into first team and being around them players and taking your chance. When you look at Anthony Elanga right now, and you look at the way he's had to break into the first team, Ralph Rangnick's come in with this massive reputation, and he sees Anthony Elanga, who's actually very close going on loan to Crystal Palace this season. And you look at the way he's taken his chance, and he's really kind of been the shining light, really, apart from Scott McTominay, the shining light of Ralph Rangnick's time at Man United. When you look at Anthony Elanga's form at the moment, you look at the way he's carrying himself as a Man United player. You were in his shoes before. What do you think his overall emotions are? And also just about what you think of his overall form. And do you maybe think he could be a useful squad player for not only Ralph Rangnick, but for the next manager as well?
Yeah, I think he's done really well. As I say, I think, you know, he's a young lad. He's got a lot of potential. But again, he's only really sort of, you know, still a kid and he's going to be still raw. I think he's shown glimpses of really good play. I think he's been, you know, in terms of sort of attitude and sort of desire and determination and everything you'd want really from one of the players, he's probably been our best player in that aspect, which I think really sort of is why a lot of the fans have shone to him even more so than they probably would have done if all the other players had the same sort of attitude and desire and will to win. So in a way, I think, you know, all credit to him really, because he's, you know, took his opportunity. He's obviously got there on merit. He's obviously been working hard in training. He's obviously done well in the reserves or, you know, wherever before getting his opportunity. You can tell he obviously applies himself well every day on a day-to-day basis. He seems like a down-to-earth kid. Because all these things come into, you know, consideration, especially when you're in and around the first team. You know, even if your ability's there, sometimes that only gets you so far. You've got to have everything, the complete package, really. And I think, you know, the way he's sort of gone about his business and some of the performances that he's put in, obviously some of the goals he's scored. Don't get me wrong, you know, he's still, you know, nowhere near, you know, the player that he's hopefully going to be. He does make mistakes at times, and, you know, he's not, you know, we're not saying he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel as though, you know, he's doing everything he can do, and he's doing everything right in terms of, you know, he can only control what he does. So some of these other players who, you know, maybe should be taking a leaf out of his book for me, which it should be the other way around. Obviously, the more experienced players and the players that's been there for longer and, you know, should be setting the example for Anthony Elanga. I think at the moment it's sort of the young kid on the blocks coming in, and he's showing some of these, you know, these sort of like seasoned pros and players who, you know, multi-million-pound contracts, how things should be done, which is, you know, it's not good really, because, you know, the way Man United are at the moment, we sort of, I think this is a reason, and a massive reason, why we are so up and down and why we are sort of so inconsistent and can't put full performances together, because so many of the players aren't sort of doing these things on a regular basis, and they're not applying themselves, and they're not probably training as hard as they can do, and they're not probably doing extra after training. They're not, you know, doing other things that aren't going to get themselves in the media for the wrong reasons. They're not, you know, fully concentrating on the football and being the best that they can be. And I think Anthony Elanga, from my point of view, and obviously being a young kid that got into the first team, he's just, you can tell he's just so excited, and he's every time he's involved, and when he's at a game, or, you can see it on his face. He's just absolutely made up to be there and being involved and representing the club, which is how it should be for all the players. But he just seems to, have that sort of fire in his belly that every time he goes on the pitch, he's going to run himself into the ground. He's going to run through a brick wall. He's going to try and impact the game in any way he can, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench. And yeah, I just, for me, he's been outstanding. And I mean, I don't want to get too carried away and put too much pressure on the kid, because I think if fans do that, I think, it could be, maybe too much, because as a young player, you just want to come in and try and, ease your way in, make a bit of an impact. And if you can get games in the team, great. But, as a young kid, you're not going to be starting week in, week out. You're going to dip in and out of the team. But when you do get your chance, I think that's when, you've got to try and show something and warrant your place in the side, which he has done. So, yeah, I think he'll be absolutely over the moon with the way things have gone, and scoring that goal the other night will obviously have done his confidence an absolute, world of good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look at the way he's applying himself, like, it's a breath of fresh air. And I think one thing we always see with especially if you look at the last 4, 5, 6 years, the academy players that have come into the squad have really been a breath of fresh air. Like, obviously, you've had Scott McTominay, you've had Marcus, so obviously you had Brandon Williams, you had players like that. Now, obviously, Brandon's at Norwich in a minute. You have James Garner, Joe at Forest, he's doing bits at the minute. Like, there's a lot of academy players who are doing well. Obviously, we had another players, obviously Ethan Galbraith, players like that. So there is good young players who are doing stuff, not only in, let's say, the Premier League, but they're doing it in other leagues as well. Like, like, they are breaths of fresh air. But like, touching on Elanga, like, he's someone who's, like, you're looking at a forward player, you're looking at ambition, and you look at a player who's not afraid. Like, if they get tackled, they go again. They get tackled, they go again, they go again, they go again. Like, that's the way Anthony Elanga's attitude is at the moment. Like, he's making runs in behind, he's being direct. He's not afraid to take on a player, he's not afraid to have an early shot. Like, that's the way Marcus Rashford was when he first came to the team. Like, kind of, for me, I look at Elanga now, he really reminds me of what Rashford was when he first broke into the first team. And it's kind of like, hopefully he can continue on that kind of path of establishing himself as a first team squad player. Because I still do think, as great as Elanga is doing right now, I still think that right wing position at the moment, we need to buy someone in the summer. Because I do think, even though we bought Sancho as a right winger, retrospectively, he's actually been unbelievable on the left. I think he's probably going to be better for the balance of his team on the left. I do think United should get a right winger in the summer. A natural, because Sancho can play both. He can do a job on both, but he's doing way better now on the left. He's settled on the left. I'd like to keep him there, because he's played there for Dortmund. He's done well there as well. So for me, if I'm Man United, yes, Elanga is a great squad player. I think if we want to be really looking at a challenge for titles, which we both all know, it's going to take a while, but still, if we want to build a squad, he's definitely someone who needs to be part of it. And of course, look, when he scored on Wednesday, that was absolutely unbelievable. It was literally just you looked at the way he took the ball, drove it forward, and then just bang, straight away. One look up, he looked where Oblak was and put it in the corner. And what was really refreshing for me was his interview after the game, and he said, "I've done my research on Oblak, and it's I know he leaves that bit of space, and I know he doesn't like diving left." For me, that's refreshing to see a young player actually doing that, doing the homework, and not just being kind of "Oh, I'm playing for the first team for Man United. I've made it now." Do you know what I mean? Do them little things like that. That shows, he has that different type of attitude to what kind of other young players have kind of had in the past. So hopefully he can continue that in his game. And look, he's impressing at under 23 international level. I don't know if you've seen the reports today, but he's getting a first team call up for Sweden in the next international break. That shows, because Sweden have a very good team, and for him to get called up, now at this young age in that Sweden team, considering you have Alexander Isak and strikers like that, in the round there, that's really impressive. So for me to see him get that call up is fantastic. You've since Rangnick has come in, though, you've been a massive kind of advocate for Anthony Elanga coming into the team. Look, he's done absolutely well. When you talk about the Manchester United Academy, you talk about us bleeding young players into the team. And we look at kind of the last 5-6 years, and you've had like the McTominays, you've had Rashfords, you've had Langa, and you've had other players come into the squad. And you look at the current new crop coming in, like Hannibal, Short here, players like that, Charlie Savage, Sadan Iqbal. Is this the strongest Manchester United's academy has been post of Alex Ferguson?
Good question. Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, United's blessed with the traditions of bringing academy players through, and rightly so. You know, they probably spend millions and millions every year on developing players, and they've got a good structure there. Good lads who's coaching, and you know, we've done from as far as I can remember, we've always brought a good group of. It was English, but not just English now, because we buy obviously foreign players from in the academies a lot younger than when we was there. But obviously we coach them and we train them, and they do well, and hopefully they'll make continue. I mean, we was on about Elanga there. I think the word what was going through my mind is raw. He's a raw talent. He's hungry for success. You know, he's eager to look well. He's eager to impress, which a lot of younger lads are like that when they first come onto the scene. I think Phil hit the nail on the head. We don't want to put too much pressure on him too soon. It's one of them. I think the crowd, the song, what we've got is absolutely amazing.
Oh, it's a banger, isn't it?
Every time he scores a goal, all I can think of is that song. And every time, he scored an Elanga banger. You know, we've got these phrases now, what's coming into us and all that. And it's great, you know what I mean? We've all took to him really well. And again, there's not really much more to say in it than what you and Phil said. He's coming and he's showing the passion that he wants to play well, when there's a lot of players on that field what don't look like they're doing it. And I think that's the reason why the crowd have took to him so well. He's, like I said the other night, it was the only one when he come on what made any sort of forward runs for me, or any type of dangerous runs where we could have thought, put a ball through and, got past the central defenders or the full-backs or the wing-backs. Before that, it just wasn't happening. Sorry, Phil, go on.
I was just going to say, I think, just touching on that, I think, as a young kid, and when you do come into the first team, you are fearless, and you have that sort of, where you just want to, impress, and you want to express yourself. And I think what you just said there, I think the other night, the game was crying out for somebody to sort of penetrate and run in behind. And for Bruno and people like that, obviously he's got an assist in every single Champions League game this season. I think he was crying out for someone.
I think Bruno was getting frustrated, Phil, when I was watching it. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, he's playing side balls, he's playing back passes. And I think he was getting frustrated because the option wasn't there to play it anywhere. Yeah. And sometimes he played the ball and it was to no one, but someone should have been there making that run. Do you know what I mean? It was making Bruno look bad. Yeah.
What that does is when someone makes that run forward at pace like Elanga did, that makes the midfielder's mind up. He's looking around the pitch, and if someone's making a run like that, it makes your mind up.
The thing is, Phil, even if that, say for example, someone makes that run and the defender goes with him, and it's not on, it's creating space for the midfield. Before it was too compact. When I was watching it, the whole game was just compact into midfield, and we wasn't clever. We just wasn't clever enough to play through.
No,
you make that
too slow. It was too slow in the build-up, and obviously there was nobody making them runs in behind, which is effectively how you're going to hurt Atletico Madrid, because if they can see everything in front of him, the way they sort of shuffle across the pitch and they're well drilled, he was never going to score in a month of Sundays. So until Langa came on and made them runs in behind and changed the sort of dynamics of how he was playing, then it proved that that there is a weakness there, and they're not as good as you might think. We just need to sort of utilise the sort of maybe timing of the runs and maybe get more players to sort of look at mixing it up, because and I'm not saying you can do that all the time, but Bruno and people like that, they want players to be making runs in behind, because they can pick a pass. They might get 5 wrong, but then that one that they do get right, it bang and you back.
Like, for me, I can't remember a run what was a meaningful run what someone could have picked out. Do you know what I mean? And I'm on about Bruno getting frustrated, but probably Pogba was getting frustrated too, because he can pull a worldly ball off, no problem. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Pogba's one of the worst players on the pitch. The other night, I thought
before Bruno got the assist, I think like the most two disappointing players for me on the pitch in that game probably would have been Pogba and Bruno.
Yeah, I was made up that Rangnick had the cojones really to bring Pogba off and keep Fred on, because the easy option would have been to keep Pogba on, hoping that he might create a little bit of magic and bring Fred off. But ultimately, Fred working his tenacity to get to that ball before it put Bruno in, created that goal. Now, for me, in that game, Pogba wouldn't have won that tackle. Pogba wouldn't have gone in where Fred went in. So, to me, it was the right decision to bring Pogba off and keep Fred on. And there's not many. I don't think many managers would have done that. I think they would have kept Pogba on the off chance that, you know, we do know it can create something out of nothing. So let's keep him on. Like you said earlier, for me, put the players in what deserve it. The players what should be playing are playing on merit, not because they're in aim. And I think that's completely right at the moment in time. I mean, Pogba, for me, I think I put it on Instagram. I'm confused because he has 2 or 3 games where you think, right, he's going back into form now. And for me, when you're coming back into form, your confidence builds. But for me, he does 2 or 3 decent games. You think, right, he's going to be right on it today. And he has an absolute stinker. I struggle with it. I struggle to get how he goes about, if you understand what I mean. You never know where you're going to be 1 minute to the next. And it's consistency. It's consistency all over the park, innit? You know what I mean? And for me, it's the will to want to win. I thought that we went there from the first minute. I think we were shell-shocked. I think we just thought we'd sit back and play for a draw. And they pressured us, and we just looked like we didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it looked like they were almost overawed by the occasion, the fans, Diego Simeone, that aura. And it looked like they were kind of, you know, taken aback a bit. Now, I'm surprised when you look at, like, I think Ronaldo, to be fair, I'm going to come to Wayne's comment in a second there about Ronaldo. I think one thing about him, he looked up for it. Like, he did, like, there is times, yes, he dropped a bit too deep. That's because he wasn't getting any service, though. Like, at one point, Ronaldo was like 30 yards and like 30 yards away from our own goal to get the ball. Now, you can make of that what you will, but our midfielders weren't progressing the ball. Like, Ronaldo's coming back to try get the play moving. You know, like, our midfielders were doing nothing with the ball. Now, you can obviously make that counter argument that Ronaldo wasn't running in behind. Like, as Wayne says here, like, you know, Ronaldo was not great. He was hanging around 6 yards behind the defence, and it takes us 30 seconds to start playing, move the ball forward because he doesn't get onside. But yeah, like, look, I think Wayne's argument is fair in certain occasions where Ronaldo did do that. But, like, when you look at the way United played the ball through the midfield against Atletico Madrid, it was very tepid. It was very, you know, lackadaisical. You know, like, they weren't looking up, you know, to string a couple of passes together. There was no movement. And, like, especially in that first half, like, I was worried because, like, Koke and that weren't playing. Suarez weren't playing. You know, like, Carrasco wasn't playing.
They had 5 or 6, you know, first team starters not playing in that game. So for me, if you would have gone off, I know we said we was underdogs, but if you would have gone off the starting 11, for me, on the day, we should have been a better team. We had the bigger names, we had apparently the better players, but it didn't look that way. For me, sometimes it looked like it was Premier League vs Championship, as such, where the Championship sides, they've still got decent enough players. You can keep possession and, you know, play a nice ball to your left or your right and then go forward and come back. But there was no progression, and that, for me, that's what it looked like.
Do you know what it looked like to me? One team looked coached and drilled. One team didn't. And it almost feels like some of these players are uncoachable because some of these players have the same habits that they had under Jose. They had some of the same habits that they had under Solskjaer. Now some are displaying the same habits under, you know, Ralph Rangnick. And, like, you can say, is it a coaching thing? I think, yes, it is. But some of these players are uncoachable.
Yeah.
I think they have their own habits, and that's it. They won't get out of them. I think we did see that the other night against Atletico Madrid. But again, I do agree as well. Like, you looked at the balance midfield. Like, the minute the Man U match came on, we were winning second balls. Do you know what I mean? We're winning them battles in midfield. Like, and Scott McTominay, whatever it was this week, Scott McTominay got a lot of slating on social media because Diego Simeone came out and said he's one of our best midfielders, or what was it? He's one of the best midfielders in the world. Now, look, that was a tongue-in-cheek comment he made about Scott McTominay being one of the best midfielders in the world. But, like, McTominay, where he lacks in technical ability, he makes up for it in physical presence and, you know, his ability to win, you know, battles on the pitch. You know, I think that's what he makes up for it. Like, I think if you look at McTominay at the minute, like, he's an important part of this midfield. Like, McTominay is an important part of this midfield. And we've seen that against Atletico Madrid when, like, Kondogbia was winning these second balls. Like, the first ball would be a 50-50, you know, still there. Kondogbia would win the second ball. Do you know what I mean? That was consistently happening. And because, God help Fred, like, he was the only one in midfield at that time that was going in for them battles. And he was losing every time because from a physical standpoint, he didn't have that stature to win the ball. But then, like, the minute match comes on, then, like, you've seen it straight away. We had composure on the ball. You know, he was dropping in between two centre halves, receiving the ball, you know, popping it out to Telles, popping it out to Wan-Bissaka. And then when the second ball was coming, so he was winning the ball in the air. He was winning the tackles. Like, he's even getting the odd foul in there to break up Atletico Madrid's counter-attacks. Like, he was doing all the basics of what, though, like, a whole midfield player would do, essentially. And look, again, every single podcast, I swear to God, we always say, this is why we need a 6. And you watch the Nemanja Matic's cameo the other night. It shows what United are abundantly missing in that midfield. Appear to be that link from defence to attack, but also to win them battles in midfield. And
it proves a point, doesn't it, when a lot of United fans, and, you know, we all like Nemanja Matic, and he's been a decent servant to the club, but I think we all know that his legs aren't what they used to be, and how we can. It was so. Everyone could see what had happened when he come on. You know what I mean? It changed the game, and for us to have to bring, you know, an older lad on whose legs look like they've gone a lot to be and make us look a lot better. When we brought Pogba off, says a lot about what we need, a hell of a lot about what we need.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. We look, this summer is going to be massive in terms of recruitment and getting the player in. I'm saying now, even though he throws England over Ireland and, like, kills me every time because he'd be our captain, but Man United should be going all out for Declan Rice in the summer. Like, we really should be going all out for him. He literally would be that proper number 6 who can do everything Matic does, but has the legs to do it for 90 minutes, not just to 50, 60. Matt, who is an Everton fan and a regular watcher of the show, I might add, is in the comments here today. He says, "Evening, gents, big game against Watford this weekend for United. If you win, it's 9 points out of 9 in the league in 10 days with a draw away to Atletico Madrid. We're playing poorly, but we're getting results." Phil, when you actually look at that comment there now and isolate that in a nutshell, Man United aren't playing well, but we're getting results. Where do you think the penny's going to drop here? Because obviously, this next phase of the season, we talked last week about the season starts now, essentially. Ralph Rangnick's after having this kind of period with the team to kind of get to know a team. I called it his pre-season. Now, when you look at this kind of next run of games he's had, yes, we've got 9 points. We could potentially get 9 points out of 9, and we've got a draw against Atletico Madrid away. Do you think now tomorrow is the time where we really make the penny drop? And, like, because truth be told, this Watford team are battling relegation, another new manager. Every time we have a podcast about Watford, it seems like they have a new manager. But, like, Roy Hodgson is coming in, and he obviously wants to make an impact. Do you think this weekend is the perfect time to really kind of kickstart the season and actually try win a game, get a result, and actually doing it playing well, considering Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last game as Man United manager, they destroyed us 4-1, and they barely won a game since.
Yeah, usually it's a difficult one because usually, you know, it's a comment that you make, you know, when teams aren't playing well but still picking up results, you know, that's the sign of a good side. But I think, you know, at the moment we are picking up results, but I'm not fully confident that, you know, we're going to do it consistently, because as we've seen in you know, numerous games this season, we've picked up results, and then, you know, we've come up against a team which you should think, you know, that should be an easy 3 points, like, you know, we did against Watford last time, and we got absolutely slapped. So it's just about now, you know, building some momentum, because we have got a really tough run in now in the next couple of weeks. We've got games that, you know, aren't going to be, you know, where people are looking at them and being, you know, be thinking this is a game that we should be winning. You know, we are going to be playing tough teams now, and obviously if we can't put these 90-minute performances together like we've talked about, you know, all the time, in terms of 45 minutes we've played well, whether it be the first half or the second half, and then, you know, the other half we've been nowhere near good enough. If you're going to be doing the same now in these next couple of weeks against, the better teams, then for me, I don't think that we're going to, be even in the game, because, the Burnley was a typical example, the one against Villa, Brighton, you could reel off, as many games as you want there. If you're playing against the Liverpool or, a Man City or, a Chelsea in them games, then you could find yourself 2 or 3-0 down at half time, and that's game over. So yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. But tomorrow, I think, Watford, they're fighting for their lives. They are still, going to be wanting to win, because, inevitably they're trying to keep themselves in the Premier League. Roy Hodgson's gone there with an aim to keep him in the division. So it's going to be a tough game regardless. They've just beat Aston Villa, who, have given us a game a few times this year. And obviously a quality side. Villa's got, probably far better players than Watford, and they've lost at home. So I just feel as though we need to now obviously utilise the squad, use some of we've obviously had a lot of games recently. Tough game obviously at Atletico Madrid, where some of the players will be still a little bit fatigued from that. So I think this is an opportunity now for Ralph to maybe give some of these other players a game and prove the worth and show the squad depth, really, because with the amount of games that we have got coming up, you are going to need to keep some of these players fresh, and you don't want to sort of run people into the ground if you can help it. So for me, the likes of Elanga and stuff like that now, obviously he could maybe get a start against Watford after that, little cameo and scoring, build his confidence up. We've got other players there who's been in and around the squad who you could maybe give some minutes to. But yeah, if we're being honest, Watford at home, it should be a game, no problem, that we should be winning. Especially after, the run of games we've had. We've won 2 there in the league and a good result away in the Champions League, so confidence should be there. But again, we've talked about this so many times, and we've got a bit carried away, or we've got a little bit excited about United's turning the corner, and then bang, something,
we draw 1-1 or something like that.
We get a bad 45 minutes in the second half and end up conceding, and so I don't want to get too carried away with everything that's going on. I just feel as though now is the time for a lot of these players to start proving how good they are. And as I said, we've talked about reputations all season. Now some of these players need to start earning the money and proving how good they really are, because these are the games now that, yeah, you should be winning against Watford, but then the games after, when we're starting playing against some of these bigger teams, that's where we're going to need to put the performances in. Otherwise, we're going to get blown away. And if we don't pick up results in this next 3 or 4 weeks, the season could be over. We won't be finishing 4th, and we could be out the Champions League if the next sort of 5 or 6 games don't go to plan, and then that's a complete disaster for Man United if that does happen and we end up finishing, say, 5th, 6th, 7th, which in reality is nowhere near good enough for a club.
I think Phil, I've just been listening. I think realistically, with the run of games we've got and the inconsistency of how we perform week in, week out, I'd be very surprised if we finish in the top 4. I've got to be honest with you. I'd be very surprised.
I do. I agree. And I think, as you touched on, maybe the last podcast or the one before, I think even though it's going to be catastrophic financially, and I think, when you want to try and attract better players in the summer or whatever, it's going to have a massive effect. I think in the long run, it might be a good thing, really, because then the club's got to look at the sort of business model and the way that we're going and the recruitment and think, this club's miles off some of the other clubs, and we need to sort of do something as soon as possible and deal with this right now, because we're getting we're trying to catch up to the likes of City and Liverpool, and for me it looks like we're taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps back at the minute. So yeah, again, it's going to be a difficult run, but we just don't know what to expect from this United team from one game to the next. So we could be sat here in 6 games and be like, top 4's on, and we've beat Atletico and we're in the quarterfinals and whatever, and everything looks rosy. We could be sat here in 6 weeks and we could be saying how bad have we been.
Put the kids out. Let's watch the kids play.
Yeah, let's pack up now and just give some of these young lads a run out because the season's over. We've got nothing.
I think going back to Matty's comment about the points, which we're not playing well, we're picking up points, and it could be 9 from 9, and yeah, that's great. Don't get me wrong. You like Phil said, if you're picking up points and you're not performing consistently, it's a good sign normally. But surely, if I'm playing in a team and I've played the last 4 or 5 games and we've scraped a result, or we've just managed to get a draw when we've not played well, my confidence levels aren't high going into you like to Liverpool and City, because we've been lucky against your Brightons and your lesser teams. Them are the matches where we should have been winning, but we should have been winning well, and getting our confidence up, playing well, not scrapping the results. So I can't see how we can go into these big games and be confident of getting a result when we've played a lot lesser teams than what we're going to be playing, and not played well and not performed well, and being lucky. And it's all you need to do is watch the matches back, and they'll realise how lucky they've been to get some results. I mean, although there weren't many chances created against Atletico the other day, they hit the crossbar twice. Do you know what I mean? They could have quite easily have won that game. I can't remember many chances what we created whatsoever by the goal. Did we create a chance by the goal? I can't think of any meaningful chance we created. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's for me.
Again, it comes back to though as well now. I think what it comes back to as well is, like, in terms of not the Champions League, but in terms of the Premier League, the fear factor's gone now. So all these clubs that are coming to Old Trafford, even you likes of Watford, they'll be going there tomorrow, and Roy Hodgson will be saying, listen, these are beatable. They're not the team they used to be. We perform. We can pick up a result here, no problem.
Massively.
Aston Villa. I think that's the psychological thing for United players now, because they're under pressure every single game, every single week. They're going out there thinking we should be winning. We have to win. And it's like the microscope's on them, like, and the pressure must be sort of so intensified, because they're going on the pitch thinking, if we all play to our potential here, we should absolutely batter Watford. But because the performances haven't been consistent, and the fans and everybody looking from the outside are all saying, "Oh, Man United's not the team they used to," all that kind of thing. These teams now, they're turning up to Old Trafford and they're thinking, right, this is game on here. If we play half decent here, we know United can concede goals. We've seen it all season. They're not the team they used to be.
I think Man United, Phil, I don't think we're a victim of our own success, past success, if you will, especially with the media. So, an example of it, we all know Maguire, and a lot of the time, rightly so, has got hammered in the press, hammered off United fans, absolutely hammered in the press. And that goal, what they scored the other day, Atletico Madrid, it got absolutely, what I seen on Twitter, murdered again for it. But that was fantastic centre forward play by that Joao Felix, and that ball, that ball in was second to none. And the run, I've watched that goal back, and
clever.
Maguire he didn't even have a millisecond to think, because he's run from behind Maguire. He's come from behind him. So by the time you've seen him, it'd gone, and the hang time he got in the air in the header was absolutely out of this. I don't think another centre back, any centre back there, unless he took a guess or anticipated that movement, you wouldn't have had that reaction time, because it was so clever, that run from that Joao Felix to score that goal. And I don't think that helps with the media, that every little bit of anything that just gets scrutinised, and even at half time with the Rio and Scholesy and all that, like, and he should have done better. He didn't react quick enough. No, I can't have that for that goal. There was no reaction.
Sometimes you've got to hold your hands up, haven't you, and just say, that was fantastic, bit of quality play. And I think that's, at the moment, we sort of, because of how poor maybe he has been, and he has made a lot of mistakes, and not defending him fully, because he has been poor. And
he's been poor, mate, very poor. Yeah.
But I agree, because sometimes you think, it's easy to just blame it on Maguire, or it's easy to just say, "Oh, that was really bad," or because it's been a constant over so long now. It just seems as though as soon as anything goes wrong at United, you can just easily say, "Oh, that's his fault," or that's because of him, or that. When really, sometimes you've got to look at the bigger picture and be like, "Hang on a minute, that was a bit of world-class play. The players...
I wanted to get your opinion on that goal, because when I've watched it back, I thought, obviously you being the striker, I thought the run he made and what he did, for me, it was just a great goal, what I mean? And
that's the thing, at that level as well, Champions League, that's the kind of players you're going to be playing against. What he's done is he's got on Maguire's blind side. So Maguire's looking at man and ball. As soon as Maguire's took his eye off him, bang, made that run. And obviously it was a great cross, but the timing of the run, and then obviously, Maguire's dead because he's on the roof. Maguire stood square on. There's only one winner, and I think
I don't think any centre back in that position with that run would have had, say, unless they anticipated it as a guess and got their arm up before he ran. And
try and block him off maybe. But
you couldn't have reacted to that run and got there in time. No. It just would never have happened.
That's it. You got to roll your hands up and just applaud sometimes good play, because you're not going to be able to concede. You're not going to be able to not concede every single game, because you're playing against world-class players here, and these teams and these players, they're clever enough and they're wise enough to sort of be onto people's weaknesses and get into space and create things that we should be doing as well. So I think it's easy sometimes to maybe point the finger and play the blame game on your Maguires or whoever else you might want to blame, Ronaldo, if we're not scoring at the other end, when really you've got to look at the bigger picture and just say sometimes, it was great defending or it was great, attacking play, and just get on with it and look after yourselves, really.
Yeah. And look, if you look at that ball as well, like that from Lodi, he terrorised us anyway. The Lodi on the left hand side.
Well, he played very well, that Lodi. I've never really watched him before, but I thought he had a great game.
He's actually a left back as well. He played in left midfield. He's actually a left back. And look, it was mad. His performance reminded me of Gareth Bale against Inter Milan a couple of years ago. Well, more than a couple of years ago. Jesus Christ, that was 2010. But it reminded me of that, the way he kind of took on players and was getting the early balls into the box. But yeah, look, it was one of these things where Maguire switched off for a millisecond and bang, the delivery was brilliant, and the header was it reminded me of Messi against United. Remember Champions League final 2009? Remember when Messi hung in the air and got over Rio that time? It reminded me of that. And I'm sorry, Rio, if you're watching. I mentioned that. I do apologize for bringing that one up. But it was just one of them, where Messi hung in the air and scored the header. It really reminded me. Felix said it really reminded me of that, and it was just one of them. Look, it was a good goal. Move on. But other than that, the performance in the first half was absolutely useless. And then second half we were better. And then Ralph made the subs. One thing I liked from was his in-game management. And then we move forward. But overall, in terms of kind of on the track we were in terms of playing well, with not playing well and getting results. That's true. But again, as Matt says here, look, very lucky to draw against Brighton, up and down the performance against Leeds. Brutal against Atletico Madrid, but managed to draw. United aren't far away from being hockeyed by a capable team. We've seen it earlier on the season where we weren't playing well and picking up results. Then we had that little run of games where we got battered by Liverpool, battered by City, battered by Watford, and then Solskjaer lost his job. This, as great as this, Ralph picking up results, again, I think this team again will really be measured by how we play against the top sides. And Ralph hasn't played against the top side yet. And I think that's where we'll see how this overall system works. For me personally, if we play this 4-3-3 and we play McTominay, Pogba, Bruno in a midfield three against City, you have a big problem, because the amount of gaps that you leave in that midfield, Bernardo Silva is going to pick your pocket Silva, as they call him. Well, they call David Silva that, but I'm giving Bernardo that nickname, pick your pocket Silva, because that's literally what he'll do with Man United. He'll pick their pocket.
And this is the problem I have, Keane, with what I said at the beginning of the podcast was I've got a feeling that this is what we're going to have to get used to now till the end of the season with the running, that we're going to just play defensive, because we're going to be scared, because we know the teams that we're playing are just better. They've just got better players. They play better as a team. And we're going to be sat back again, and it's not good enough, is it, for Man United? This is where I think the only way we're going to improve is signings. I don't think we're capable enough of doing anything with the squad that we've got.
No, I do agree.
Because I think the goal the other night was a lovely little one-touch play, and I think that's how you're going to, break down the better teams, by that one and two touch quick combination play, and then an incisive run by Langa and a great ball. That's the kind of stuff you need to do, not just once in a game. You need to be doing that, 5-6 times a half. And
they're going to be for me. They're going to be too scared to do it, Phil. Aren't they?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you need to be brave. You need to believe in your own ability, which I don't think we do at the moment, especially when we play the top sides. And as you say, I think that's been sort of the pitfall to our sort of demise, really, against the bigger teams. Because, you know, if you do just try and sit in there and defend for your lives, then, you know, that again then plays into their hands, because they're going to have so much possession. They're all comfortable on the ball. They can pop it round. You know, they can play little triangles, 1 and 2 touch, you know, around the corner. And you know, that's where you need to get to be able to create as many chances as what, you know, you see in, like, if you watch City against probably anyone at the moment, you know, they're creating probably between 15 and 20 chances easily a game. I think at the moment we're probably creating less than half of that against most teams. And that's
like, I think when I watch City, Phil, too, I think what I've seen of them this season is they keep the ball lovely and, you know, they don't force it. But when they do play that decisive pass, 9 times out of 10, it's there. It's there. Well, when we do it and Bruno tries it, and bear in mind, Bruno's our most creative player, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it goes nowhere or it gets cut out. And I think that's the difference. I think it's the actual quality on the ball, what we lack a lot of. You know what I mean? And
definitely, yeah.
And it's just a shame because, like, you look at the money we've spent in the last decade. What, 1 billion or something, like whatever, near enough that was 800 million, something like that. Someone in the comments might correct me, but like, we look at the amount of money spent, it's down to the poor recruitment. And again, every manager probably not getting a chance to put their stamp on their philosophy and get their first choice targets. And I'm not saying that any specific manager, like Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ollie spent 400 million, so you can't really say he didn't get players. But like, do you know, like, if you look at the overall since Fergie retired, like, we haven't had continuity in terms of leaving the manager have time to implement the system, giving them the player, like giving them the actual players he wants to implement the system, and not players who, quote unquote, you know, sell shirts. It's one of them, really. And look, it's just a shame. But like, kind of moving into Watford this weekend, guys, because we mentioned, obviously, Matt quite rightly mentioned in the comments that we've had a lot of games in 10 days, and it's been kind of a really quick turnaround. When you look at United's overall starting 11, we've had, obviously, huge games in the last few days, and mentally and physically, United's players are probably a bit burnt out. Phil, can I just get your starting 11 and your formation, because a lot of fans will probably be expecting changes this weekend. Do you think that's going to be the same?
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned it before. I think with the run of games that we've had recently, and obviously a big Champions League game, which took a lot out of some of the players. Playing at home to Watford, I think it's a good sort of game, really. You can make maybe 2 or 3 changes and give some of the lads maybe a bit of a rest, and maybe give some of the lads who maybe need some more match fitness and a bit of game time with a busy period coming up a chance. So for me, I think he will make 3 changes. I haven't actually picked an 11. I'll just go off what I think in my head at the moment. So I'd say De Gea in net. I think he'll play Wan-Bissaka. I think he'll give him a start, because obviously Dalot has been playing the majority of the games recently, but I think he did quite well when he came on the other night. So I think he'll get a chance maybe to start at right back. I think Lindelof will go back into the middle. I think he'll play centre half with Maguire, and then I think Tellez will probably get a game as well. I think he again was fantastic when he came on the other night. He got forward and put in some great crosses. He's been a bit unlucky really with Shaw coming back into the team. But I think, he's another player who maybe deserves another chance to sort of get some minutes and just to see how he goes, with maybe giving Shaw a bit of a rest in mind as well. And then I think it'll be Fred, Bruno, and I want to say Pogba, but I think because the way he came off the other day, I think he might just keep him and maybe rest him again, and maybe let someone else come in and have an opportunity to maybe play. So I think, he could potentially go with Lingard. I don't know whether he will, or, that's just my opinion. I think he might give someone like Lingard a chance. And then I think it'll be Ronaldo, and Sancho, and I think Elanga will get an opportunity to come in as well. I think he deserves that after the game he played the other night. I think he's obviously somebody who's, at the moment in a sort of really good place because he's just come off the back of scoring a goal in his Champions League, and he's somebody who the fans are really sort of galvanised by, and I think his attitude and he's got a really good song that everyone loves at the moment. So I think he's somebody at the moment who's sort of probably in the forefront of everyone's mind, and he's sort of flying the flag really for the club. So yeah, I think that could be a potential team. I mean, it might not be. I'm just obviously been put on the spot because I haven't really thought about a team, but I do think he'll definitely make 3 or 4 changes and give some of these other players some minutes, because obviously Watford at home, I'm not saying it's a gimme by any stretch, but it's a game where I think he can afford to maybe make them changes and we can still have enough quality to get a result.
Yeah, there is obviously window of opportunity to bring in a few players, and obviously not look, I think some people you see some people wanting drastic changes, they want 8-9 changes. That's not going to happen. I think there'll be a good core of 7-8 players who will probably start this game. I'm going to go to Lee, get his 11 as well, and then look, after we do our 11s, we get our usual score predictions in as well. Lee, give us your starting 11 and formation.
It's quite similar than Phil's actually. If I'm being honest, I think there will be a few changes. I've gone obviously David De Gea in nets. Now I think they'll start Alex Telles. Like I said, when he come on the other day, he looked for me more dangerous, especially up top than Luke Shaw did when he was playing. So I brought Telles in. I would definitely put Victor Lindelof back at centre back. I think he's our best centre back. If it was me, I don't think he's going to do this, but if it was me and I was choosing a centre back per him, just going off form, because I don't think Maguire or Varane really deserve a start, if I'm being honest. And obviously it's a game to bring in other players because it's Watford. I would try Eric Bayer again if he's fit. I don't even know if he's fit. Is he fit? Do you know? Yeah, is he part of the match day squad or?
I don't think so. I think he's still injured. I'll have a look, so I'll get the team news up for you right now.
I wasn't sure. If he was fit, I would drop him in, and if not, I'd probably give Phil Jones a go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to get the team news for you there now. Oh no, the only 2 players who are out are actually McTominay and Cavani. So
yeah, I thought I'd seen that before. So yeah, I'd put Bayer in. I think Bayer is a top quality centre half on his day. I mean, I know it can be a bit unpredictable on the ball, but what I've seen in the last couple of this season, any one of our centre backs can be a little bit unpredictable. So the way the 2 have been playing, I would definitely give Bayer another go in there. I'd probably bring Dalot back into the fold. I think he's probably been on paper our best right back of the season. So I'd bring him back in. Bruno in the middle with Fred. I think the 2 will definitely start. Now, I think he'll play Pogba. And the only reason I think he'll play Pogba is because he was on a decent run of form before the Atletico match. And I think he'll want to keep his spirits high and keep his confidence going. And like I say, if he comes back into the Premier League and has another decent match, then it's keeping that consistency going. So I think that he'll start him. Hopefully, he can turn the Atletico performance around. I've dropped Rashford. Put Elanga in. Yeah. Definitely, 100%. We need that spark. We need that running power. I think if Rashford was on his game, he's probably got more running power and more spark than Elanga has. If I'm being honest, he's just not doing it this season, and it's a shame to see. And I can only think it's a confidence thing with him. You don't lose that ability, you don't lose that natural ability to take a player on, and that speed what he's got, and the power and his shooting. On his days, he's as good as anybody. So I really do hope he finds his form and finds that bit of confidence. Probably start making decisions a lot better than he's been making, because I think that's got a lot of things to do with it too. His decision making has been very poor. So for that reason, I'd take him out and bring Elanga in. We've only really got Cristiano Ronaldo up front with Nova. Cavani's back out, so we've got to put Ronaldo in there. And Sancho again, for me, the other day, although none of them, I don't think one of our players played particularly well. I think he was one of our better players, especially on the ball. You know, he kept the ball a lot better than other players, looked a bit more consistent throughout the game. So you can't drop him. At the minute, he's undroppable. So that would be probably my starting 11.
Yeah, and young Phil have a lot of similarities here, 11, and it's probably going to be in around the same. Now, I've slightly something different to the both of you in regards to United's 11. So I've gone, obviously, David De Gea and goal. That speaks for itself. I've gone Dalot and Telles, two fullbacks. I've gone Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, centre half. I think Raphael Varane will probably be rested this week. I think it'll be Lindelof and Maguire. I'm going to go Matic in sitting midfield. Because I think Fred's played a lot of football. McTominay's out. I think this will be a nice game for Matic Quinn for us to influence the game, keep the ball. And I think, look, Watford are going to sit back. Roy Hodgson's going to want to soak up pressure. He's going to try and nick a set piece. I think Nemanja Matic will be perfect for this game for us to break the lines and obviously, keep possession of the football. And just before I get the rest of the 11, Matt says, great stream, lads. Have to jump off now. I'm rooting for United tomorrow. So we have an honorary United fan tomorrow in Everton fan, Matt Smith. And also, Matt, give us an update on Donny van de Beek later on. Let's see how he's doing over there.
Everton are my second Premier League team anyway. I always want Everton to do well, so big up, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Now we have a good partnership.
The People's Club Everton.
You never know, Matt. Look, maybe, when we have the Everton preview, we might get your insight at some stage on the show as well. But yeah, kind of going back to my 11, I have Matic and Hole in midfield. That speaks for itself in terms of linking up the play. I'm going to go Pogba, Bruno in midfield. I do think he'll stick with that. And then I'm going to go, obviously, same front threes as you lads. I'm going to go Elanga on the right, Sancho on the left, and Ronaldo up top. Again, Ronaldo, if Cavani was fit, I'd play him because obviously Ronaldo's 37. He's playing a ridiculous amount of games in 10 days. He needs a rest. I think even if you look at it now, I think it'd be worth a shot playing Bruno false 9. Honest to God, I think it'd be worth a shout playing him there. Because if we can't be playing Ronaldo every game, and Bruno can play that role. He played it a couple of times this season already. So could you go Bruno false 9, throw Lingard and Langa as the two forwards, and then maybe bring Fred into midfield with Pogba and Matic? You could do that, but just for the all harm's sake and keeping the flow of formation, I think, look, he'll go Ronaldo, Elanga, and Sancho, and then go Pogba, Bruno, Matic, in midfield. Now, look, we'll obviously compare our 11s tomorrow in our group chat and see who was right and who was wrong. Phil, that little fecker always gets either a score prediction or 11 right. So I didn't say the proper F word there. So I'm okay there. Wayne. I'm okay. But Phil's always getting these score predictions or the starting 11 right. So I think me and Lee are gonna have to start doing forfeits in this channel very soon because Phil must have something inside there from Ralph Ragnick's camp. He must have a little inside character.
In the know, yeah, inside info.
Inside info.
I feel like I'm just too optimistic. I'm most optimistic when it comes to score predictions. I'm trying to lower them down hell of a lot because they've made a fool out of me this year with my score predictions.
And you know what, as well, lads? I wasn't on the obviously preview to Atletico Madrid, but I do have it in writing as well. I did predict the Atletico Madrid 1-1.
To be fair, I did predict it on Super 6 as well, lads. I had it in writing as well. I got 5 points on Super 6.
I thought 0-0. To be honest, I thought we'd come away with 0-0. I thought they would have both cancelled each other out. But I just think we were very lucky. To be honest, we should have been. I think 3 or 4. I think 3-1 would have been a first score to them. To be honest with you,
it would have been. Look, I think many people's predictions would have got it. And just to prove it, there, guys, look, there's 1-1. I predicted 1-1 there, guys. Just to throw it out there. I didn't put a bet on it though, of course, because I'm thick. But look, I think if you look at the game, I think there's many different lineups we could go with. Now, Matt asked the question earlier on: do we have depth? We have depth, but one thing we don't have. There's a difference between having depth, but we don't have strength and depth. You can have depth, and you can have a big squad, but if you don't have enough quality in that depth, is it really depth? It's just a lot of players. It's not strength and depth. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of that, I want to get the guys' score predictions just before we wrap up here. And so usually we always have our score predictions. We do compare them at the end of the shows. So we will obviously do that on next week's podcast as well. Phil, give us your score prediction for next week's game, for tomorrow's game.
I'm going to go for a convincing win tomorrow. I don't think we've had sort of a sort of game where the floodgates have opened, but I actually feel as though tomorrow, I think we're going to get a quite convincing win. I'm going to say 4-0. I don't very often feel this way because obviously the way we've played sort of all season, but I just think tomorrow's a big game in terms of like putting a marker down for these next upcoming games. If we can get a convincing win and get lads, maybe a couple of lads on the score sheet again, and clean sheet and have a sort of better performance over a 90-minute period, then we could sort of go into these tougher games coming up now with a lot more confidence. So I'm very optimistic, but I've got a good feeling. I'm this is, I stick to my guns. I'm like with my predictions. So I'm going to go for 4-0, and I'm going to say Ronaldo's going to get a hat trick tomorrow. I think he's due a few because he's been knocking on the door a few times at Old Trafford, where he's had a couple of chances and not really sort of been as clinical as I know he can be. So tomorrow, I think he's going to get quite a few chances and he's going to put them in and sort of put them to the sword. So yeah, I'm going to go for 4-0 Ronaldo hat trick.
4-0 Ronaldo hat trick. Well, I'm just saying this now. If that does come up and we do get that scoreline, Phil, I'm clipping you up and you're going to be on the Talk of the Devils page with the score prediction, and we're going to get that.
I might just set up another Twitter account or something and say Marshy's tips or something.
Nice little burner account there for you on Twitter.
Mystic Marsh.
Mystic Marsh, yeah. That's the account name, Lee. You've just smashed it there. Mystic Marsh.
Oh, do you know what? If we're looking at marketing here, guys, we are literally Manchester United's board's dream here with all these marketing ideas for social media. But yes, so you're going to go 4-0 Ronaldo hat-trick. That is really optimistic. That smashes Lee Lawrence optimistic claims out the window.
Completely gone there.
So with regards to this, Lee, do you have any alternative score prediction, or are you going to go 4-0 as well? But are you going to go for hat-trick?
Funnily enough, I was going for a Ronaldo hat-trick and a 4-0 win, but because the team still picked me to the post, I better change my mind. And, I'm a little bit less optimistic, let's put it one way, than usual, and then Phil. I think we'll win tomorrow. And I think it just depends on how we turn up and how we want to play, basically. But I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. I'm going for a 2-0 win. I think we're long overdue a clean sheet and a good defensive performance. We need to start performing well in defence. Hopefully we can hold out, and I'm going to go for 2-0, and I'm going to go for Sancho and Pogba for my goal scorers.
That'd be nice to see as well. Two lads who are in form and continuing their form. That'd absolutely be fantastic. Another troll in the comments. That's absolutely great. Yeah, you're blocked. But
what was that?
Yeah, just another troll. It happens every single show. It's that usually happens at the start, but it happened at the end today. So look, that's okay. Thanks for the view anyway, spammers. But just with regards to this, I'm going to go with my score prediction. Two lads have went 4-0. One lad went 4-0. Another lad's gone 2-0. Both of them are confident Man United are keeping a clean sheet. Am I going with a clean sheet? Absolutely not. I think United will concede tomorrow. And I think, again, it'll be another shambolic defensive error. But I'm going to go United to win 4-1. It's going to be revenge from the last game. It's going to be the same scoreline. I'm going United to win 4-1. I'm actually going to go a Bruno hat-trick tomorrow. And I'm going to go with Alex Telles getting the other one tomorrow as well. So I've gone completely out of left field. Phil's got a Ronaldo hat-trick, but I'm going to go Bruno hat-trick. I'm going to go Telles getting one as well. There you go. So if that happens, Mystic Marsh is out the window. He's sacked. That's absolutely happening.
He's taking a pen if you get a penalty tomorrow, do you reckon? Because Ronaldo missed the last one, didn't he? Lindelof.
Nah, Ronaldo's taking it all day if we get a penalty. Reese in the house. Reese.
Yes, Reese.
Late. Reese, there are score predictions, man. Where are you, like?
Reese. Yes, Reese. He's on the same page as me, Reese. He knows all about it.
He said,
all the optimistic score predictions I've given all season, and they've been nowhere near. You watch now.
Exactly. But you've got to time it right, Lee.
Something like that.
Lee, you've got to time it right. That's you know what I mean. You've been too premature. You've peaked too early. You've got to time it exactly right. I'm feeling this tomorrow.
I feel like revenge. I feel like revenge is nature this weekend. We're doing this one for Ollie. We're doing this one for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We're going to do this for him tomorrow. This is going to be sweet, beautiful revenge. And no, I'm not promoting revenge like anything, but I'm just promoting footballing. It's sweet, the sweet science of football. That's what we're promoting here today. And we'll do this one for you, Ollie, because look, no matter what other United fans said, we absolutely love you. So look, we're going to do this one for you. And Bruno's going to do it for you as well with a hat-trick as well tomorrow. And, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic celebration. And unfortunately, we'll probably get Roy Hodgson sacked because Watford sack managers still after every week. So, we'll probably end up sacking Roy as well. So, look, that'll be that really. But Reece says it's all about precision. You're absolutely right. But on that note, guys, we are going to wrap it up there this evening. It's an absolutely fantastic podcast. Great conversation as always, and great to get the lads' opinions kind of on Manchester United the whole time. So we will be back, obviously next week with the podcast, and we will be previewing a certain Manchester derby coming up next weekend. So do check that out. There'll be massive talking points going into that game, and also we'll have our first post-match reaction show as well next weekend. More on that later on the Talk Devils Twitter page. Do check that out. But yeah, look, absolutely. Look, we will have plenty of content coming next week. The Marcus podcast also be back next week. The one with Wayne and Paul Parker. So Dave with Scott Wootton, the Paddy Barkley podcast. So if you're really subscribed to this podcast and you're a Man United fan, Jesus Christ Almighty, you have content nearly coming every day. So do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and continue supporting Talk Devils YouTube channel. And also check out our website, talkdevils.co.uk. And as always, guys, thanks very much for your support. We do appreciate it. Hope everyone has a good weekend, except Watford tomorrow. And until then, guys, thanks very much. Cheers to the support, and we'll see you next week.